Alright, so now that we know how to make a basic bar graph, there are a few extra fancy things you can sometimes do to make your bar graph contain a little bit more information. And you probably won't need to do this for introductory courses, but there may be a time during your psychology student career in which you will have to make bar graphs that show some kind of information about the variability of your data. And typically in this case, there's two different pieces of information you could share to give your graph viewers a sense of this information. And that is, you could show them the standard deviation for the data within each group, or you could show them the standard error of the mean for the data in each group. And in the context of a bar graph, the way that you would typically display this kind of information is by including a error bar for each of your different graphs. So you may be wondering, how is it that you create an error bar whose size matches the magnitude of either the standard deviation, if that's what you'd like your error bars to represent, or the standard error of the mean, if that's what you'd like your error bars to represent. And the way you do this is actually not that hard. I'll show you how. So the first thing you want to do is select your graph, and we've already made this graph. This is very similar to the graph you would have seen in the basic bar graph tutorial. In this case, you're going to go to Chart Layout after selecting the graph, and you should see a button for error bars. So you're going to click that button, and there are a few options here. You can make error bars with standard error, error bars with percentage, and error bars with standard deviation. These are all automatic error bars that Excel calculates for you. The issue with these is that it will create error bars that are all the same size for each column, and it won't show you the individual either standard deviation scores or standard error of the mean scores specific to each group. So none of these would be the options you would like to pick. Instead, the best choice would be to go to error bar options. You'll see this window is going to pop up. So there are a few different things you can do. You can make error bars that display in both the positive upward and negative downward directions. You can make your error bars positive only, so they're popping up above the height of the bar graph, or you can make them negative only, in which case, they are going down below the height of the bar graph. So in this case, we're going to make our error bars jut out in both directions, and we're going to make sure that they have caps. For the error amount, you can see we can pick a fixed amount, a percentage standard deviation, or standard error, or custom. And custom is exactly what we'd like to select, so we will select custom, and we're going to specify value. So for the positive error value, we're going to make it, let's say we want to make error bars for the standard deviation. So we're just going to highlight in the order that the columns are appearing on the graph the corresponding standard deviation scores, so 5.6, 5.2, and 3.4. Once we've selected all of those, we're going to do the exact same for the negative error value, because we would like our error bars to be the same size in both directions. So once again, we'll highlight those three values, and then we will click OK. And now we're finished. And as you can see here in our graph, we have a large 5.6 error bar, a large 5.2 error bar, and a slightly smaller 3.4 error bar for three different groups. And we could do this again for standard error of the mean if we wanted to instead show error bars that indicated standard error of the mean. So once again, we'll go to Chart Layout, we will go to Error Bars, Error Bar Options, we'll go to Specify Value, and for the positive error bars, we're going to switch it up. We're going to pick the three values associated with the standard error of the mean. We will do the same thing for the negative error bar values. Hit Data Input. We will select OK. And as you can see now, the error bars that are attached to each of the different columns correspond to the standard error of the mean associated with each of these different scores. And hopefully that gives you an idea of how to create accurate error bars that correspond to either the standard deviation or the standard error of the mean for each of the different groups whose data you're displaying. That's the end of that tutorial.